Welcome back to the Growing Your Business podcast. I am Jackie Chaplin, a crochet business owner, and this is...
Hi, I'm Rebecca Merker, an artisan jeweler.
And in today's podcast, we are going to be discussing how to find your target audience because it's very important to get in front of the right people if you're trying to sell to them. Mm-hmm. How do we do that?
A good point to start at is kind of the basics. You'll hear it from everybody. They talk about what age range do you sell to, what do they like, and then where are they located. They're like three really important things, and they do not have to be exact, and they can change.
They definitely can change because I thought I was going to initially be selling baby stuff to like more or less millennial moms, but then I decided I did not like doing baby stuff, so I switched to plushies. So I thought naturally, okay, kids. But I actually sell primarily to millennial moms and a lot of like adult people on Etsy. So kids still probably make up like 40%, but everybody else is like over the age of 18, if not like in their 30s. So it definitely changed for me. So just when you're thinking about your product, you just want to ask yourself like, who would like this? And a lot of times, who would buy it? Who would like it kind of works too. A lot of times, not always, but your target demographic is going to be pretty similar to who you are. Nobody really talks about that much.
Yeah.
But like more or less you wouldn't be into jewelry if you like weren't into jewelry, you know, and other people that are like you are probably also into jewelry.
Well, the same thing as far as like the people that you make friends with, those are the same people who will be your demographic as well, because they're people you connect with already on a personal level, and they're people that you're going to find it easier to connect with, you know, in general. I'm not saying that everybody likes the person that they buy from, but when you're in a handmade business and you're the front face of your business, people buy from people that they connect with.
Yeah, a lot of your customers do end up becoming friends, or your friends become your customers. There's an overlap. You guys don't have to be like fully identical. Oh my gosh, we're the same person, but just similar interests, you know?
Sure, you could even make the same things, and I know that sellers, including myself, buy from similar sellers all the time because we have an appreciation for what they do.
Yeah, I've bought crochet stuff at markets. And then if you really can't like identify, if you feel like you've got something that like applies to everyone, you might need to see how you can niche your product down to be like more unique.
Yeah, and I'm not a huge fan of niching, but when it comes down to it, there needs to be a selling point for you. And it doesn't mean changing your whole product, but maybe you need to take a broader and closer look at the product at the same time. You know, what's the broad aspect of it? Who are you selling to that makes you feel like it's broad and relates to everybody? Write that down. And then if you were only to sell to one person in a group of 10, who would that person be, and why are they buying from you?
Yeah, how would you target them more or less? A good example, I was reading a book recently. It's a terrible product. I mean, it's great, but it's gross. The poopery stuff.
Yeah.
A female wanted to make something to cover up like the nasty smell of like her boyfriend's shit. So it's not like a new idea, but it's like
it was
originally was meant to cover up like his stank, but then a lot of women started buying it to like cover up their stank, and that's how like they could find the demographic. And they got the really funny commercial, and like it's always like very proper.
They gave it a cutesy brand.
Yeah, it's very proper. So that's like how it merged, more or less. Like that is very heavily cliff noted and probably modified because it's how my brain remembers it. But it was basically like that story.
You're gonna see the same thing though with pretty much any of the brands, and you could actually do some like research on this with brands you see every day. One of the biggest things people talk about is the cereal aisle at grocery stores. Your healthy stuff is up on the top shelves. Your sugary stuff with the fun cartoon characters and all the like cutesy things that you don't want your kids eating but you also like, those are at eye level with the kids. It's there for them to pick out their favorites. So that's something to like consider. Who are they marketing towards? Clearly they're marketing towards the kids that are going to bother their moms to buy the stuff.
For sure.
Or dads. No judgment. We're not just talking to moms here or women in general.
Yeah, we speak to like a female audience mainly, but definitely not only.
Well, we went through essentially age, like looking at who's buying your stuff gives you a good idea for age. What they like in general seems like such a vague statement. We're not looking to see, I know some people will be like, well, what do they do in their free time? You're thinking, well, what are their hobbies? What are their sports that they like? We're thinking more along the lines of what are they shopping for? What are they picking out? What's the style that they're looking at? And normally you you can tell
Well,
that
and,
by
like,
the
what do
way
they
people dress.
do too? Because your stuff would work for like a corporate professional kind of person.
Yeah.
And
What
less
they do for a living.
so for a surgeon who's got to take their jewelry off every time they like go to work. So it's probably going to be less doctors, but more lawyers kind of vibes.
Well, my stuff's very, very appealing to people who work with their hands and who see their hands every day, because people who work as lawyers in offices, a lot of times they go for a lot more like easy,
Yeah.
plain colors, plain, and my stuff is very like, it's fine fashion, but it's not.
It's got
a look to it, and so
Yeah.
a lot of people work with their
I was
hands.
going to say it's
on the
colorful, but
farm.
that makes it sound like it's not all millennial beige.
I mean, it's something you'd have to kind of look at Instagram to really be able to see what we're talking about. But
Yeah.
again, generally people who work with their hands, who are out there on the fields or who are doing something that's a little bit more sporty, they buy my stuff. People who plant and do gardens and
I guess, I don't know. I think of jewelry in terms of rings specifically because that's like
well, and most
primarily
people
all the
think, like,
jewelry I wear.
fancier. They think
But I can
fancier,
see-
fancy people, fancy jobs, and like, yeah, that can be the case, but that's not my main audience.
Yeah, I don't know our demographic. That's not my gig.
No, that's mine.
Nope. But
And other business owners who are smaller business owners buy from me a lot.
yeah, if you're vending at an event and it happens to be slow, you're more than likely going to sell to like a fellow vendor because we all just get bored and start shopping, and that sometimes turns into repeat customers. So
It does, and people you make genuine connections with, and you learn about other markets, and then you're with them at other markets, and that's how you kind of develop into friendships as well.
up front, when you don't know for sure, you're going to want to take educated guesses for these things. It can be helpful to like go on Etsy and see if there's similar products to yours, and then go look at like the reviews, because like a lot of times when somebody reviews something, their picture is there, so you could see, is this like an older person, younger person, is this a man or female, that kind of thing, and use that kind of information to make educated guesses. See if you could find that business's like social media page and go from there, and you can like kind of work back towards what your demographic would be.
Well, and you can kind of get an idea based off of, so if you are on social media, you're on Instagram, Facebook, you've been posting your stuff, whether you're selling it or not, getting an idea of who likes the pictures, who's kind of there and getting like interested in your pieces or commenting on it. Instagram and Facebook will both give you a demographic look. Instagram and Facebook will show you what the demographic is that is looking at your pictures and interacting with your photos and videos, and that's something, that's information that's valuable. You can put aside and you can compare with the data you already have. You do not want to rely on any one singular form of data before you like determine your demographic.
And of course, it's worth noting that most people start with 0 on Instagram, so that is not going to be helpful necessarily right out the gate, because you're going to need to like build up your followers.
But you don't
to
need
use
a
that
crazy
information.
amount. Like, you don't need to be even at 500,
I think you
1,000,
need
15,000.
like at least 100 though to
Yeah.
get a good pool out of that.
That's what I'm thinking.
And it can take a little while to get there, but that is definitely like, you can use that when you get there to either confirm or adjust. But as far as like connecting who you think your demographic is to finding like suitable markets where you think your people will be in person, just think about if you're selling to like business women, maybe skip the like farmers markets, because those are a little more like rustic, a little more like southern country kind of vibes.
And younger. That's going to be a lot younger generation. So
Yeah,
Gen
that's a good
Alpha, younger millennials. You might want to look at maybe art fair shows, because people are going to go to the art fair shows if they're like the higher scale demographic. And you're going to look at those business meetups and spa days.
That's a good call. Or anything that can be used as like a wedding venue.
Mm-hmm.
If there's an event happening at like a wedding venue, like that could be good for like that kind of more like put together like posh style demographic.
I will say, for those who fit into bridal shows, I think bridal shows are nice for specific demographics. There's many in our handmade community that's not super beneficial for it. It's very expensive.
Bridal shows are hard because a lot of people are window shopping them.
Well, that's pretty much all
Not
they're
shopping
doing
them.
is window shopping. And so
Yeah.
like, it seems like a reasonable avenue, and if that's your target market, see where else you could find those people.
That's more about making connection versus like making sales in the moment. So I would personally, even if I had a bridal type thing, I would probably skip doing bridal shows, or like bridal expos, because they're going to be expensive for the most part to do.
They are.
Without the turnout of actually making sales in the moment. Now if somebody
And
like
you
follows
almost
up with you
always
later,
have to give something away.
oh yeah, I hate that.
Yeah, you always have, not only do you pay to be there, but you always have to have something in their raffle as well. And I'm saying this from like personal experience doing them.
Yeah,
They're nice, they're fun events.
But yeah, so you're going to want to just kind of think about where your like target market would be. For me, because like I said, my like demographic kind of expands the gambit. I sell to just as many grown-ups as I do children's, almost. So I can, for the most part, set up at the majority of events, and as long as it's not too like niche specific, I tend to do okay at them. But I definitely do kind of look for more kid-friendly events. Though, on the other hand, that girls' night out, which wasn't super like kid-focused, kid-friendly, actually made a lot of money because I was like one of the only kid-friendly booths, and I got real nervous when I set up at that one because I'm looking around, I'm seeing leather, I'm seeing jewelry, I'm seeing the lady next to me had like dog stuff, and then I'm over here with like stuffed animals, and I'm like, did I mess up? I think I messed up.
And I did like that event, and I do hope to do some in the future, but for my business it was very specific to like what months I was doing it, whether or not I actually make money at the event. And that's something to think about with demographics too, is your customers going to be there at the time in which you are there?
Yeah, that's a good point too. I feel like because you sell jewelry, the first part of like the year makes sense because you have like Mother's Day, you have Valentine's Day, and then it peters off probably about May.
And
then it's like swimming pool season. If you sell like a summer item, you're pretty much golden all through summer. I sell stuffed animals, so I'm not going outside.
I'm still considering whether or not I'm going outside or not.
Yeah, I'll do one a month. We live in Florida. That's like a whole different kind of heat. Summer stuff, that makes sense. But yeah, you wouldn't necessarily bring, like for me, for example, I made a bunch of knit hats because I was going to send them up to my mom who lives in Missouri for a show in April. Now in Missouri in April, still a bit nippy out. April in Florida, it's not. Her show, she ended up skipping, so I've brought hats to my last like handful of markets since April. It's May now, and I've sold a total of 0 because it was 96 degrees today. So yeah, just think about,
when I've noticed that
are your customers buying these things right now?
I've noticed that with Tumblr sellers and with sign sellers, that a lot of them still have their winter stuff and their fall stuff out in spring and summer. And all the more too, if you want to bring it out, I just wouldn't have it up at the front of your booth, and I've seen many like that. I would have it back behind things and have your spring and your summer stuff out, because that's what people are looking for.
Yeah.
People very much buy in the moment.
Don't push your gingerbread stuff on me if it's 96 degrees out.
I want to think about winter.
That's not to say you can't have it out year round. I kept a small like winter section of just like leftover stuff. There was like a Yeti, a Christmas tree, some like pumpkins with a cinnamon stick, but I had it on one shelf of like 8 grid walls, and I always kept that stuff toward the back because that's not gonna like be my big draw this time of year. And then I put my like, you know, reusable water balloons more up front, but not in the very front because I reserve that for the cows. The cows do well.
Cows are also very cute.
Thank you. I do try to put the cows and the chickens up front when I can.
Yeah. So this is all taking in the where your demographic is, who they are, where do they shop, what are they looking for, you know.
And think about your demographic as you're setting up, because you'll hear a lot of people talk about put your best stuff at eye level, but most people think that means like up with some height. But if you're like me and part of your demographic is children's, their eye level is going to be down here, so setting stuff directly on the table isn't as like much of a faux pas as it would be for like, you know, other people. And your stuff is a lot at like table heights, but it's kind of hard to get like a real good amount of height with jewelry, I feel like.
It is. I actually just got table extenders so that I could raise the tables up a little bit further. And they're already pretty tall as it is, but they're not tall enough.
They're definitely, I think, more tall than like the average event table, but
they're not tall enough for like what I'm hoping for, so
yeah.
I bought some extenders to lift them up a little bit, and some people use like bed risers and things like that for these, so
yeah,
I mean,
think
it
about
works.
that.
There's options.
Just consider who your actual target market is and go off of their eye level, because that was something that's being like told to a lot of crochet vendors, but a lot of us do plushies, and it does not make sense to have something at about 5 feet up in the air when somebody who's like yay big is trying to like get it. They can't.
It's like 2 to 3 feet once you can't see yay big from the floor.
Well, yeah. Well, we look like we're sitting, I think. So if I'm holding it.
General idea.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Just consider that in mind, and if you don't know up front, that's okay. Make an educated guess. You have to sell to somebody. If you're trying to sell to everybody, chances are it's going to be unsuccessful. But a lot of this is, no one will tell you this, but a lot of this is figured out through trial and error. Mm-hmm. And it's okay to get it wrong. And if you get it wrong, worst that happens is you just make adjustments.
You start over and try again.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yep. And figuring out your demographic is how your branding will come to be, because it's a misconception that you like decide your branding. You kind of decide colors, but a brand is actually how your customers perceive you and your business.
And how you want them to perceive you. So like say you were aiming for something and you're like way off guard and your customers are telling you this is not it, you have to change. If you want to keep that branding that you have in mind, you have to change. So it really is up to the customers. Alright, so now that we've gone over, identifying our demographic and deciding on like markets and how we might portray it in markets, and we've kind of showed how we could use that demographic online. We're going to go a little bit more detail into that in the next video as we talk about SEO, which is search engine optimization. So stick around for that video, and I hope you have a great night. Bye.